Greetings and salutations, listener. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, here as usual with my wizard friend, the boy.
Hey.
And we are joined by the unofficial official third nerd, our party rogue, Brandie.
Howdy.
This is the Two Nerds podcast. Before we get to the nitty-gritty, I was hoping to get other words out of that, but all I could think of was titty-bitty, and that's really weird. Before we get to the show, please remember to like, subscribe, favorite and comment if you feel inspired to, but really the likes, and if you haven't already subscribed, that actually really helps us out. And it's not much of your time. You could do it, literally, as you're listening to me talk. That's why I do it at the top of the show. Also, if you could hit the link in the description, check out Super Blizzard, Shining Wazato, Let's Get Hardcore, and the rest of his fucking music and his games. That dude lets us use his music for free.
Because he's cool like that.
That's internet version of kisses. He kisses us constantly. It's weird. Sometimes I'm like, bro, I'm married. But I appreciate it.
Damn right
so,
you are.
Yeah, damn right I am. So, yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. Also, remember, our channel's got other shows now. We got First Ones with Whitey, we got YT Plays, we've got all kinds of stuff going on. Keep your peepers peeled, because more is coming. So let's get into it. Today, we are giving our renewed thoughts on the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D Next, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
The reason we're doing another podcast on this is because we've played it at this point.
Well, we said we would.
Well, yeah. And we have actually done that now. We've played it, we've all gotten a chance to use the system, make some characters, get some actual role-playing done, see how it feels in action. Because it looked good on paper, but we weren't sure if it all meshed together.
You know, before we get too deep into the thought train, let me go ahead and plug somebody else. Our DM for the 5th edition excursions, who is David Gardner. I believe he gave me permission to use his last name on here, the internet's Game Master Blogs. Link in the description. He's a super nice guy who tells fun stories, and you should go give him at least as much love as you give us.
Perhaps more, because he is nice.
No shit.
And we're mean.
I need their YouTube pennies.
They're nice. At least I am.
I'm not. I'm mean.
I'm snarky.
I am even-tempered. This is how we work.
Yes.
I've been in a snarky mood today, so.
Well, it's all coming out on the podcast. So, what are you guys' thoughts? Because I'm going to eat a sandwich.
I really enjoyed 5th edition. It is, having played it, exactly what I figured it was. It is 3.5, only good this time. They fixed it. And they fixed all the stuff that was wrong. There's a lot of unifying mechanics in it, too, that a lot of different classes have, just in terms of class mechanics. A lot of classes will have a path that you pick at 2nd or 3rd level that gives you like a little prestige class sort of thing and helps guide your character. And that's not new, but they've done it in a really good way.
It's streamlined.
They streamline a lot of stuff.
And it really is replacing prestige classes. It's the choice you get to make. A, you get to make it earlier. And B, instead of it being like, you know, my dude has spent all this time learning how to be a rogue, and now halfway through their career, it's time to become an assassin, you start that shit early where it makes more sense.
And my character is a rogue and an assassin, because assassin is like a subset of rogue. It's what a prestige class, I think, should probably more closely resembles what a prestige class should feel like. An add-on, a way to specialize your character. And I like that. I like the way they streamlined it. I like the way they dealt with it. Brandie, anything specific you had?
I really enjoyed it. I think it's so much better than 4th edition and those stupid once-a-day powers that you can use. But I really enjoyed playing this bard that I'm playing.
Bard does seem like a nice combination between the 4th edition Bard, which was a lot cooler, and the 3rd edition Bard, which was more utility.
Because it does still have some of the cool stuff the 4th edition had. There are daily powers, but they're not...
They're not like the core concept of your class.
They're not the core concept of your class. Not every class even has them. And the ones that they do have, the easiest way to say it is they dress them up a little. They don't just straight up hand you a power card and say, here's your fucking dues them. And it makes it feel more like D&D.
It does. The last 4 points, 4th edition. Yeah, didn't really feel... Because learned to roleplay on 3.5.
Yeah.
4th edition felt like not Dungeons and Dragons. This feels like Dungeons and Dragons again.
5th edition feels like 3.5, only fixed.
And as somebody who learned to play on 1st edition and advanced, Mark, I would agree. It feels like Dungeons and Dragons. It's so much more streamlined. I mean, that's really the key word I'm going for. And another thing that I really appreciate about it is the first couple levels go by like that. It used to be like 1,000 experience for every level. No, the first couple are a couple hundred experience. By the time you're level 3, by the time your class, your character is set up and feels strong, it's not like you're necessarily, 50 sessions in, well, 50's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not like it's 3 to 5 sessions later and you're just now feeling powerful. You can fight something other than less wolves than you have party members.
You have to be the transition from level 3 to 4 is the first time it's over 1,000 experience.
Yeah.
It's 900 to get from 2 to 3, and then 2,700 to get from 3 to 4. That's a jump. But
1 to 2 is 300 experience.
Yeah, 1 to 2 is 300 experience.
Is that total experience?
That's total experience, looks like, because 0 is 1, and then 300 total experience gets you 2.
So you only actually need 600 experience to get to 3.
I think so, yeah. And
it's still over 1,000 to get to level 4, but
not much.
No. So yeah, I mean, and it feels really nice. Like it gives you that. It lets you learn how to play the game and get familiar with your character without feeling like the lame-ass tutorial section where you have no abilities.
You don't have to start at level 5 to feel like you have a character.
That's a really good thing. That's
Something
a really good point.
We house ruled in 3rd edition was just go ahead and make your character a level 5.
Because previous to level 5 in 3rd edition, you could genuinely lose a fight to a house cat.
I mean, and in 4th edition we still said level 3, but level 3 still leaves you so much more room to grow. I mean, even in this edition, you could say, all right, go ahead and start at level 3 so you have a whole character. So you've made all your decisions, and et cetera, et cetera.
But we started at level 1, did not feel bad.
No, yeah, it feels just fine. I mean, I can see in the future us going, let's start at level 3, just to get that out the gate.
I did almost die.
You did, but we have a good DM, so you didn't.
Yes.
We have a good DM, we ended that fight pretty quickly after you almost died, and, well, to be fair, you were actually not trying that hard. You busted out the big guns after you almost died, and the fight ended quickly after that.
Well, and you started acting more careful,
I'm used to being a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. This is the first time you played a rogue in an actual D&D game. Well, a bard.
The funny thing is, I think my wizard has the most hit points in our party.
Soon no longer to be the case, since I'm changing characters.
I might
well, actually, if you're going to change characters, then you will have the most hit points.
Yeah, because I'm also changing characters, because one of the reasons I was keeping the character I was playing is because it worked really well with the character White was playing. Since he's changing characters, I probably am too, because I found a character that fits the setting better. But that's
a
long
completely
story.
Different can of tuna fish and worms. Something else I like about this game is that even when classes are similar, like your spellcasting classes, it's really easy to tell them apart, and they actually feel really different. Like, at first when I was looking in the back of the book of the spells, I guess I was reading it wrong, but it seemed like everybody drew from the same spell pool. No, it's 3rd edition style. Mm-hmm. And they even give them a little bit more of a different identity. Even the casting systems used. It's all basically Vancian spellcasting.
But every class has its own little spin on it.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Except, like, Druid, I haven't read through Druid as much as others, but they seem like they're just nature wizard. They have a very similar cast mechanic to wizards themselves, and they're nature wizards, which is fine. I like that idea for Druids. There's one complete nitpick that I have about spellcasting. I really wish they'd use the 3.5 tables for spells. Breaking them up by level and school. Because, at the very least for Wizard, your school of magic, you specialize in a school at 2nd level, and it's really important. You get bonuses to that school, it's easier and cheaper for you to get spells from that school. So it's really important to know what school a spell is, and unless it's one that I know well enough to just know what school it is, I really wish they still broke them up by, like, abjuration, conjuration, transmutation, in addition to spell level and alphabetically. I think that would work better.
I also, and this is something that our DM also suggested, if they had short descriptions of what a spell does after the spell, again, like they did in 3rd edition books, that would be so much better.
Or at least a page number.
Sure. Because, like, some of the new spells or some of the change spells, you know, you look at and you go, oh, that should do this. No, it does not.
It does something entirely different. Its name is quite misleading. Do you have any tiny things that have bothered you about the game?
No.
No?
I am pleased. You would have heard me bitch if I had problems.
Yeah, no,
Fair.
that's definitely true. You're an ECW fan. You let us know when things are not going well.
If I didn't like it, I'd be like, this fucking sucks. 4th edition, this fucking sucks and I don't want to play it. You're making me play it? Why are you making me play it?
Which is always sad, because it's the easiest game in the world to DM.
Yeah, I haven't DM'd it yet.
Yeah, neither have I. And none of us have DM'd it yet.
But
so.
I can see in the book where it's not as easy as 4th edition.
Which it would be really hard for it to be as easy as 4th edition, because part of the reason 4th edition was easy to DM was because of the card system and how ruthlessly balanced it was.
Now, 4th edition was great for people like your mom.
Yeah, my mom loves 4th edition.
Who needs to have what she can do laid out in front of her, color-coded, it's for people who need to keep track of everything.
I don't even necessarily know that it's a need. I mean, she was always really excited about it, too, to use her power cards and...
It's very much a gamier version of D&D.
Yeah.
And for people who like gamier stuff, it's useful. But alright, listener, we're the lame. We're a little bit lame role players. We're the ones who very much into story, very much into that, and the flexibility offered by like a 3.5 or 5th edition is a little bit better. Wouldn't you say?
I'd say it's a flexible game. I don't know. I'm pretty adaptable. Out of the three of us, I'd say I'm probably the most adaptable.
I wouldn't say we're lame.
I would, because I'm comfortable being lame.
I don't know.
I think we're awesome, and we get involved in stories.
That's...
It's a 6 of one, half dozen of another. The point ends up being the same.
Yep.
I mean, the boy wants to be self-deprecating. Let it be self-deprecating. Whatever part of the game you choose to enjoy, this edition lets you enjoy it without forcing you as a player or DM to make special exceptions. I could just as easily get into the skills system of this game as we have the storytelling or as we have the combat.
One of the things I also like about this game is we played with 3rd edition, which we really didn't need maps. I mean, they were helpful. 4th edition, you had to have a character map to see exactly...
Like the little grid?
Yeah, she had to have a grid with minis.
To see where he was going. Otherwise, it was very difficult. You had to check this rule, especially for this power card. With this game, it goes back to... You don't have to have one as often.
So long as you have good sense of spatial awareness in your head, you're fine.
Well, it's not even that bad, because 4th edition brought a lot of secondary effects to powers that were push, pulls, moves, and drags. So you needed to know where everything was, because that was intrinsic to the game.
Because it was much more like a war game. We'll put it like that. Which, I mean, that's fair. That's perfectly valid. D&D started as a war game.
And it was fun, but it was very combat heavy. Like, even us, listener, who Boy describes pretty accurately as storyline junkies, had a hard time just making stories out of these games. Like, the resources in 4th edition just weren't there. And they kind of tried to make up for it later, you know, in the DM's guide when they were talking about the skill tests to give you experience. But it was all very... It was too gamey and not enough roleplay.
For us.
For us. Well,
Funny thing, having played 5th edition now, you can go back and listen if you don't believe me, listener, or if you remember. You don't have to. I was, shall we say, somewhat / bitter about 4th edition. having gotten more D&D under my belt, having played some of the new edition, it's mellowed me on the previous edition quite a bit. I can understand better why someone would like it now that I don't have to play it if I want to play the latest edition of D&D.
But we still have it as backup for when we want to play with people who enjoy that type of game.
And we did the smart thing and didn't buy all of the books like I did with 3rd edition.
We did buy a lot of them, though.
Not that many.
Compared to our third...
Compared to our 3rd edition library, no. Our 3rd edition library is an entire bookshelf.
One of the things I like that they carried over from 4th edition and actually made stronger is the amount of power your character has out the gate. And the removal of some of the nitty-gritty, hey, there's that phrase again, minutia of a lot of combat. Like dual wielding, or telepathy, or, fun stuff that's mostly harmless, but for realism reasons, or balance reasons, are usually gated off by feats or what have you.
They just sort of let you have it in this edition. That's really nice.
They're like, just you do it, who cares?
You know what's something that is very unlike the rest of the D&Ds that came through in 5th edition? It's actually a holdover from 4th edition that I really enjoy, because it feels more like they fixed it in this instance.
The listener can't say what, so I will say what?
The skill system. The skill system is very 4th edition skills. I actually really enjoy it because it avoids the problems of 3rd edition skills, and it's a much simpler, more streamlined way of looking at skills.
Yeah, I agree. It's very refined from 4th edition. This is just and I think taking, the input of the fans into account, playtesting with the fans and figuring out what they needed to do was about the smartest option. I mean, the DM's guide has, albeit loose, instructions on how to make your own monsters, how to make your own spells, how to make your own classes, how to make your own little bits of classes, how to make your own races. They're not super in-depth, and how could they be? But it's a better guideline than we've had
since the DM's Guide 2 in 3.5, I think.
Even then, they just sort of gave you, the roughest of guidelines.
Now, to be fair, in 4th edition, in terms of making your own monsters, you didn't really need guidelines.
No, but making a class, other than just switching some fluff around...
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Oh my god, I spent hours just refluffing things. And, for stuff people never used. Now, it's a lot more intuitive. It reminds me of the 3rd edition days where you can just look at a class, go, okay, this is where the balance lies. Let's take out these bonuses, replace them with these bonuses, and we have a whole new freaking class.
Yeah, pretty much. Trying to think of other things to cover here, because we got more time, and we're mostly... I want to get into some more depth into the game, like specific mechanics and stuff. But...
Giant farty sound spike of a book closing is...
It's just amusing to you? I think I'd like a little bit more experience with the combat system, especially as another class, which should be happening soonish. Because the combat system is very D&D, but... I want to make sure it holds up and doesn't get bloaty as time goes on, like 4th edition did.
I don't see it getting bloaty at all. I think you would be... I think it's going to end up like 3rd edition, where you have this arsenal of tools, but you can't necessarily... Or rather, you don't have to necessarily use them all. Like, just because you're a wizard and you have all these spell slots doesn't mean you're going to want to spend them all in any given combat. Especially with the advent of the short rest and the long rest, and when you get your stuff back.
They kept a bunch of stuff, short rests and long rests. They kept spells you can always cast. And that's nice.
Yeah.
It's just nice not to be down to a dagger. And be like, well, I guess I'm just a really shitty rogue now.
Something I'll say good things about is the character creation.
Super simple.
It is dirt simple.
So simple, in fact, I downloaded an app. Free. I paid like $1 to take the ads off just because they were bothering me. I didn't feel like looking at a Tide banner at the bottom of my character sheet. But I got a free app. It's called literally 5th edition character sheet.
This is on Android.
This is an Android app. That is the 5th edition character sheet. You can use the character creator. It just takes me, and I'm not joking, it took me 45 seconds to make a character.
It's really simple and fun. Like, looking at the classes, there's so much that I want to play. Like, in 3rd edition and 4th edition, I'd look at stuff and go like, no, that's dumb. That doesn't look any good. But in this game, I open the book and I'm like, oh, look at all these magic things. I could be any of them.
Which is weird, because you always have such a hard time figuring out a character.
Is that a critique of my present situation or a praising of 5th edition?
A little bit of both.
Oh, that Brandie. She is the biggest of the mangrove trees. Throw shade at me like that.
Well, I can't say the library is open. No, but seriously, there's so much stuff that you want to do, it's hard for you to pick.
Yeah.
And then you had such a hard, even though there's so much stuff you want to do, you still had a hard time figuring out what kind of character to play.
We're in a custom setting, and I have a bunch of self-imposed rules that I'm trying to meet.
I understand that.
I have so many character concepts that I would be able to roll around in like a dog in garbage were I allowing myself. But I'm not. I'm trying to keep it classy.
Classy is not something I'd use to describe the three of us.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Completely unrelated podcast question, folks. What's a better name for a guitar/great deck combo? Vanita or Valerie?
Leave your votes in the comments section.
Yeah, do it.
Also, give us a thumbs up. It's that little button. You can see it. Don't tell me you can't.
I can't.
I will show you where it is.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, I told you I was snarky.
You are in the mood of moods tonight. Obviously, we haven't had a lot of high-end play.
Well, the campaign's just started.
Yeah.
We're level 2. So,
But, I mean, how much high-end play did we ever really have in any other edition?
4th edition, we had a lot. We got
Dude,
to...
we never got to level 20.
Yeah, we did.
When did we get to level 20?
The campaign Brandie was DMing, where I was playing a rogue. We got to level 23, I think.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It just doesn't... That game is so smooth. There's no ramp. It just smoothly takes you from 1 to 30. Every combat feels the same because it's so ruthlessly balanced. They just start taking longer and longer. But, we got to like level 22, 23.
Well, I guess you're right now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, but ordinarily, I mean, like, it's pretty rare for us to get a campaign past level 10.
Yeah, us as a unit, since I've moved in with you guys, it's not been a thing. It's happened to me a lot.
We got that one.
Sure, there's been a handful. I mean, it happens, but it's not like...
Well, to be fair, I like that, because, to be honest, I feel like it should take a fairly long time to get to high-end D&D play.
Oh gosh, I agree.
It's important that you earn level 18, 19, 20, or 4th edition level 30. You need to earn it, because otherwise it doesn't feel as good. If it doesn't, it kind of takes away the accomplishment feel. Because you don't necessarily need to be high level to do an epic story. For instance, right now, we're not using D&D, but one of the fantasy games that I'm DMing is, in terms of D&D levels, where would you say you guys are? The Thieves Guild campaign.
I don't know if you could really...
I wouldn't say above level 10. In terms of straight combat prowess and D&D levels, would you? Really?
Yeah, no, but that's...
It's a different system.
Yeah. D&D is a system where you gain experience based on deeds and on kills. The system we're working with, you get a set amount of experience based on how much experience you want per session. Because it's a point-buy system. So,
And
like...
we played that game for 2 years.
Yeah, if it were in terms of D&D, we would easily be like level 15 by now. Easily.
No, but that's not the point I was making. That's not...
This is also a system that starts you at around level 6.
I would say so, but the point I was making is you don't need to be level 20 to make good stories.
Oh, no,
No.
certainly not.
You completely derailed the point I was trying to make.
I'm sorry. Well, and I agree with you. I was actually going to make that point myself. we're not having high level play, so it's really impossible for us to comment on how the game plays at a higher level, but how often do we have high level play? I mean, that's not the point of D&D necessarily. It's playing and having fun.
I would say in terms of D&D specifically, it's part of the point. 20%.
For some people, not this group.
Not necessarily.
Not most of the groups I've played with.
Not necessarily, but the levels are there. Part of the point is to get them.
Well,
I wouldn't say it's much. Maybe like 15%, 20%. Not much. Certainly not the majority. But if the levels are there, part of the point of the game is to get them.
Like Pokemon, you gotta get them all.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to.
That's probably a good analogy.
You don't have to.
The point I was making is that us, as a group, it's not the goal. If we finish a game but don't get to level 20, that's fine.
Yeah, game's over.
It's for us. It's more. We're not SRD living in Greyhawk people who need to get their warrior that they've been playing for 27 years up to level 20 so that he can be the lord of his region. We make characters. We play the story of a game until the DM is burnt out, the players aren't having fun anymore, or we actually finish the story, and then we move on.
Please note those were listed in order of likelihood.
I don't know, we've actually finished a lot of stories. Not as many as we've started, but we have finished a wealth of stories.
True.
Something else I like is the monster manual.
Haven't had much time looking. Since I haven't DM'd it, I haven't bothered looking.
First of all, it's a return to form for the 3rd edition monster manual. Like, every monster is listed with its details and its stat blocks and facts about it, and it's not just like a monster genre, and then a bunch of kinds of monsters that could possibly be in that monster genre of varying levels and MMO, positions. Not that that's bad, it fit 4th edition, but you lose a lot of the fluff and a lot of the lore if all you're doing is focusing on the stats so hard. There's also, I feel it goes actually above and beyond the 3rd edition, because each monster has a picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's something not even the 3rd edition monster manual did.
Really? Each monster has a picture?
Every single monster. Well, there's like a bunch of things in the back that are like giant rat. You know what a giant rat is. You don't need a picture of a giant rat.
But all the unique monsters that you wouldn't necessarily know what they are, they all have a picture.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and the art is really nice.
The art in this book is beautiful.
All of the books have really great art.
No, we've mentioned this before. There is one kind of art in these books, that is not beautiful. Halflings look like scary, scary mutants.
I think this might be because their halflings are scary, scary mutants. But,
They have giant heads and tiny little legs, and
honestly,
it's weird.
The monster manual is probably my favorite artwork in the entirety of the books available so far.
Like, all editions?
No, well, probably. But, at least for the newest editions books, I love the monster manual art. They put so much emotion into these characters. Yeah, you're laughing because you know exactly who I'm talking about.
The fish guy.
The Kuotoa, who's so jazzed about life. If you have the monster manual, take it down off your shelf. Flip open to K for Kuotoa. Look at that fish guy and tell me you can look at that face and not think, oh man, I'm so excited.
Like he just found out his favorite band is coming to town.
Or better yet,
row tickets.
the new season of Game of Thrones is happening and he's like, it's gonna be on soon. Also in the back of the monster manual, they had this in the back of the player's guide, DM's guide, one of the two, to showcase all the different status effects. They had little sketchy pictures. The back of the monster manual, there's a bunch of goofy kind of pictures of monsters in weird situations, like an Adiog hiding under an outhouse, and like a troll looking at his own severed head. There's like a bunch of silly ones in the back. It's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it makes me very happy. They also brought back a bunch of old monsters like the Flumph.
Oh! Flumph! I mark out for Flumps!
What the fuck is a flump?
Oh
man.
God, this one's hard to explain.
Show me on the other computer.
They are lawful good, psychic, tentacled jellyfish people who are super friendly and love you, and also have to live in the Underdark where Drow and all the other evil shit comes from. I'll pull it up, but I wanted to get that out, and maybe let the boy talk about some stuff while I'm clickety-clacking in the background.
Sorry, I'm just currently marking out for flumps. I'm so glad they're back.
There's all sorts of stuff they brought back, too.
Well, I don't have much experience with the Monster Manual, or really the DM's Guide. I've mostly been focusing on the Player's Handbook, because here's something. I have looked at this book. I haven't even read it cover to cover, and that's the thing I usually do with role-playing game books. But I have looked at this book a few times, and I'm having to stop myself from making characters of every, class, at least. I have so many character ideas that popped up from reading this book, because I love a lot of what they did, and I like that, because... No, I'm not going to keep bashing on 4th edition. With 3rd edition, even, it was hard for me to come up with character concepts sometimes, because everything... Yep, that's a flump. If you have the Monster Manual, flip it open to page... You want to give us a page number there, Spork?
136.
136. And, that's a cute little flump guy, that is.
He's gripping his pod like he just saw the cutest shoes.
He says.
That is adorable and they're nice.
They're super nice.
They're awesome. I mark out for flumps.
They are, they're lovely. But, so many great...
Morians are next, and that's a very different experience.
Since I've got it open, I'm pulling up those pictures in the back. This has officially become a counter monkey episode, talking about better shit and our crappy shit. Where we pull books down off the shelf and just look at how awesome they are. Starts out pretty normal with a bullet jumping out of the ground, and there's a terrified couple of goats and a farmer. There's that troll looking at his own severed head. An elf playing with her pseudo-dragon familiar. Oh yeah, there's some sort of horrible aberration and a knight with a 10-foot pole poking it. That's
a flump.
Is it a flump?
That's a flump. That's a flump who fell down.
Oh, okay.
He's upside down.
He's gonna help it.
He's helping it get up, but he doesn't know what it is, so...
There's a, what do they call it? Rug of smothering?
Yeah. Smothering a guy.
There's a minotaur looking over a dude's shoulder at a map. A doppelganger impersonating someone. And then the Adiug wearing an outhouse as a hat. I love it.
What's an Adiug?
An Adiug is a horrible trash beast.
Think Garbodor from Pokemon.
No, not quite like that.
They follow our Papa Nurgle?
They probably would. Be his pets or something. They're not very intelligent. No Adiug looks anywhere near as delightful as the 3rd edition Monster Manual Adiug. This one's pretty smiley, though. He's happy to see you.
He is happy to see you.
They eat trash. And poop and stuff.
It's a tentacle trash dog who eats poop.
Aww.
That's great.
He looks like somebody I know.
I want to get the actual page number. It's page 248. Look at that and realize that Brandie looked at that and went, aww. That's
an owlbear. Go back.
There's a reason we're married.
Aww.
Owlbears are adorable. That's.
There's just, this Monster Manual's full of great stuff. So many good pictures. And they give you what you want, I think is the biggest thing about this edition. Without it being overpowered. They're like, just take it. Just do what you like to do. Do what's cool and have fun with it. That's role-playing. And I feel like that's what 4th edition was missing. You know, people bitching about needing to be level X to throw sand in someone's eye.
Admittedly, that was pretty dumb.
Right.
I mean...
But whether they understood it or not, what they were bitching about is, you are putting so many rules in this game that you're going to tell me when I'm allowed to throw sand in someone's eye? From a design standpoint, it makes sense that this is the point where you have practiced throwing sand enough that you can hit someone in the eyes with enough efficacy to properly blind them. But it takes that personal agency as a role player out of the equation. It's just a benchmark you hit.
And it limits the insanity, the inherent insanity and terribleness of player character plans.
Yeah.
Those are important. Those are important. As a DM, I value and cherish my player characters making awful, awful plans.
I don't believe I have ever said anything you guys have done in my current campaign. It's not D&D, but my current campaign. I don't think I've ever said anything you did was a good idea. In fact, most of the time I say, this is the best, worst decision you could have ever made.
Yes.
Yes. And with my assassin who doesn't notice shit. Yeah, that seemed
Not a good equivalent to a spot check. She has.
Oh man, yeah, no, you.
But
it's fun.
It is fun, and that's important. There's another thing I want to mention. It's entirely separate, but they've made because the only class I've played at this point is a wizard. So I have experience with spell. I have experience with the spell book. I love what they've done to some of the early spells. They have. Okay. One of the big problems with 3rd edition was that after a certain point, wizards win the game. They can do what every class does, only better than every other class, so long as they have about a day to prepare. So, that's a problem. That's bad design. Okay? Perhaps realistic, but bad. This edition doesn't do that, but wizards are still very flexible, and I love what they've done with some of the early spells. To pay for that later power in 3rd edition, wizards, and in 2nd edition, wizards sucked until a certain point. They were just, they sucked. You had like 3 things you could do, and then you were just done. You were just fucked.
You were a shitty rogue.
Yeah, you were a shitty rogue. You were down to your dagger, or your quarterstaff, or your sling, or whatever. These allow for, and wizard spells at early levels were either exploitably badly written so that they were broken, or shitty. Just shitty. Until about 3rd level spells. These are not like that. All the 1st level spells, even if I'm not using them for my current character, they're all nice. They're all good. They all do what they're designed to do well, with good numbers, good feedback. They feel adequately powerful, which is nice.
Like Tasha's Insidious Whispers?
Yeah, like that you mix 2 things up.
Dissonant Whispers and Tasha's Hideous Laughter.
Okay, there we go.
And those are both really good spells.
They are. They're amazing.
They do what they're designed to do very well, and they feel appropriate. Or sleep. I love what they did with the sleep thing. Instead of being hit dice, it's straight hit points. It's very exploitable, but they only fall asleep for a minute. So it's much less exploitable in that way. You can't just put something to sleep and then, casually murder them at your leisure. You've got a minute to get your shit together before they wake up again.
There's also no longer a coup de grace rule, which is smart.
So you can't sleep jack motherfuckers, which used to be a thing that would happen in 3rd edition.
Something I liked is how there's like 3 martial classes now, that being rogue, warrior, and monk. Every other class...
Barbarian, too.
And barbarian, you're right. Every other class has some manner of spellcasting. Well, even the barbarian, while they don't have spell casting...
They
have
an
like
option.
Totem stances that are very spell-ish.
One of the prestige classes has totems. The other one is just better rage.
Yeah. But then those other 3 martial classes, even though they're not, directly mages, you can slap a mage on there. The monk has an elemental path, which is basically you become the avatar.
Yeah, I mean you become the avatar.
The rogue has spell thief. Intrinsic to that is the thieving of spells, and warriors can become, I don't remember what they call them, arcane knight or something like that, but they're battle mages.
Yeah, you can if you want some Weeaboo Fight 10 magic, you can have it.
Well, it's not even like that. I mean, they get wizard spell lists.
Yeah, like restricted ones, but it's still nice.
Sure,
I'm not really making fun of it. I use that term because that term is amusing sounding.
Some of our listeners out there might understand the genesis of Weeaboo Fight 10 magic, and I want to make sure that that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about martial arts that play like magic spells. I'm talking about literally like fireball and shit.
Yeah.
This speaks to me especially, much like you said about a wizard not suddenly deflating a rogue, because I played rogues that got deflated by wizards. It's why I haven't played a rogue in forever. That and Brandie's sudden love of the rogue. Right around the time good rogues showed back up. It's cramping my steez a bit there, Brandar.
Hey, you're the one who introduced me to them.
I love how there's exactly 0% remorse. That's great.
Did your fuck bus pull away?
Yeah, pretty much.
It hasn't even stopped by today.
The
Eldritch Knight, that's what they're called.
Eldritch Knight.
You get cantrips and spell slots.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good spell slot, to be honest. You only get up to 4th level spells, but that's nice.
My 3rd 2nd edition character was a battle mage. And I was shit.
Well, yeah, because you were in 2nd edition. That shit in 2nd edition.
Yeah, it was terrible. Well, but even in 3rd edition, the balance you have to sit, like the lack of power you gain by choosing to multi-class, especially into a spellcasting class,
Yeah,
is just
you're sacrificing pure progression, and in 3rd edition, you don't want to do that. If you're going to be a spellcaster, be a spellcaster. Never sacrifice your spell progression, because the spells are the best thing in the game.
Now, I mean, this game has the option to multi-class, and there might be situations in which you want to, but you don't need to, just to get spells.
Yeah, if you just want spells, usually there's a way in the class itself that you can gin up a spell list without sacrificing your progression in the class.
It's nice.
It's like I said, it's prestige classes, but better.
And it's the game going, hey, you wanted to do this awesome thing?
Okay, sure.
Just here, I will facilitate that for
We've
you.
made it and balanced it and made it nice and good. That way you can do it without it being shit, or you can do it without it being broke.
I think one of the big things that was a hallmark of my time as a DM in 3rd edition that I straight up have not taken a look at, because out of all the books, the one I've had the least experience with is the Dungeon Master's Guide, because I only recently legally obtained a copy of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I just haven't had the time to pour through it like I have the Monster Manual and the Player's Handbook. So I don't know much about magic items. I was not a Monty Hall DM. I was not giving things away for freezies. But if you guys wanted to play with some magic items, we would play. I was the guy who'd bring in the deck of many things and be like, let's get nuts. You know? So I haven't been able to look over their magic item system and see if it's like everything else in this fucking game so far and 3rd edition but better. Because, truth be told, I didn't like 4th edition's magic item system. I liked their suggestion that you tell your DM some stuff you're looking for and maybe it'll show up in a chest. Like, that was nice. Because a lot of times, as well, I had situations where a DM would be like, roll for random loot, or they'd be like, well, what's the most sense it would make for what kind of item would be in this chest? Oh, everybody uses swords, so all the items are swords. Sorry, Dagger Bro. What's that? You've decided to use an exotic weapon like a scythe? Well, I hope you're prepared to never have a magic item ever.
Unless you reach someone who could craft you one, which makes realism sense, but it's getting in the way of the fun of the game.
Yes, this game facilitates fun. If you prefer realism, quote unquote, if you prefer D&D to be an uphill battle for the players, and the DM constantly restraining themselves from murdering you outright, stick with 2nd edition.
Because nothing has ever done that better than 2nd edition. Nor will anything probably ever do that better than 2nd edition in terms of D&D.
But if you're here to have fun, if you're here to do anything other than overcomplicated miniatures combat, this is it. This is better than 3rd edition. It is 3rd edition again, but better.
So, honestly, henceforth, until this edition's over, and unless the next edition's even better somehow, this will probably be the thing I mean when I say let's play D&D.
Well, and there's a lot of me that's hoping that that's actually what they're banking on. I worry it's not, because it is Wizards of the Coast.
They like money.
They do like money. But I would rather see continued official releases for, this is what our drow are like, or all of the campaign settings ever. Don't just give us Eberron and whatever the other one they gave us
Eberron, Greyhawk, and Faerun. Those are the things you give us.
They didn't even give us Greyhawk last time.
No, they didn't. They gave us Faerun.
They gave us Faerun and Eberron. And go ahead and give us those. Actually, Faerun's default setting now.
They changed the default setting to Faerun instead of Greyhawk.
So give us Greyhawk. Give us Dragonlance. Give us...
I will play the shit out of some Dragonlance.
What the hell else is there?
Dark Sun.
Yeah, Dark Sun. Oh, they did give us Dark Sun last time.
They did. They did give us Dark Sun.
Give us all these campaign settings. You're Wizards of the Coast. Give us some Magic the Gathering flavored stuff.
Yeah, you can do that. That'd be super cool.
Get in contact with the many other people you're in touch with and give us those settings. Make some deals. Bring back Ravenloft. I would love to see a 5th edition Ravenloft.
I will play that solely to be able to say I played in Ravenloft, because up until now I have not.
Also, you motherfuckers, if you don't give me that goofy-ass picture of Strahd von Zarovich playing the piano, I will be so sad. You guys have delivered on your picture of the lycanthrope in the Monster Manual. That was amazing.
That was.
You guys have delivered on Transgender Bard, who is spectacular. You've delivered on so much wonderfulness. Please give me Wacky Strahd.
His wish list is short, but complex.
I like good art. Good art sucks me into a game and makes me want to play a character. That's another thing. Looking through the player's handbook here, there are so many character pictures that I'm just like, I want to
play that guy.
Yeah.
Specifically.
That dude right there.
The wizard.
The wizard?
The
warrior?
wizard is so cool. He's like this really cool old black guy who looks so wise and learned, and I want to play him.
And snarky.
Yeah, like... Not even snarky, just like dry wit.
Sure.
Just like he throws shade and you don't notice sort of guy. The sorcerer's a little weird, to be honest, because he kind of looks like Pharaoh from the Ten Commandments. But
I mean, not all the art is for everybody, but there's been a lot of stuff in this book that's made me want to play characters.
I like this. I like the Dragonborn sorcerer. Look at this friendly guy here. I like
Look, Ultimo Dragon.
Oh, if they don't have the book, they can look it up online, I'm sure.
Gaze upon the...
I was talking to you guys. There's other people in the room besides Ultimo Dragon.
Just the art is so fucking beautiful.
Like, there's the rogue picture on the first rogue table. It's a drow, and it looks cool. And I'm notably very, very critical of drow.
Well, you know, it makes sense, though, because the default setting is Faerun, and Drist is a thing. So, it stands to reason there are other escapist drow.
There are other Drists.
Like, its time has passed. That makes perfect sense by this point.
The wild Drists herding across the fields. I like this ranger. Very blue, for some reason.
But yeah, there's so much wonderfulness in there. And so
I love
much
that the default
personality.
paladin's an orc.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that they give you the Paladin of Vengeance as an option.
I like that it's an
You don't
option.
have to
I
be a
love
good
that
paladin.
the default paladin is an orc. That feels nice to me. It's hard to explain why.
Well, that's a half-orc, I think.
Well, yeah, they're all half orcs.
Yeah.
Pure orcs are, as usual, evil.
So, Brandie,
Yes, Eric.
what would you say is the biggest thing about this edition of D&D that has made you pleased about it?
No power cards.
Just really the difference in using your powers from 4th edition?
Yes.
The ability to auto-attack without feeling like a jackass?
When I first started playing role-playing, I like to tank. I like to hit shit and roll a bunch of dice. Going to 4th edition, I couldn't just hit something with my sword. It didn't do anything.
Right.
It did very little, and I was useless. I could, use these powers,
Or go fuck yourself,
So-
I guess.
and it just pissed me off, and I didn't want to play. I wanted to roll a handful of fucking dice anytime I hit shit. This allows me to have at least some of that back.
Well, and if you're playing a strict, full-on melee warrior kind of class, you get, multiple attacks at later levels, and your damage goes up. Barbarians, notably. Do you remember Brutal from 4th edition, where you could re-roll damage dice that came up once?
Yes.
Barbarians get that.
Ooh.
They just
Warriors,
sort of get it.
as part of their combat tree, get improved critical, where you start critting on, an 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's... The stuff is in there. They've just integrated it with the rest of the class.
I love, there's another tiny thing, because I guess tiny things about the book, about the PHP is what I'm going to be covering for this podcast. Sorcerers. One of the sorcerer builds, one of the straight builds out of the gate is a wild mage. And they have a wild magic table. And
Yeah.
a lot of it is, pretty beneficial, which makes sense, because they have stripped a lot of the negatives out of stuff. They go for, this is what you're good at, and this is what you're good at, other person, as opposed to, you're good at this, and you suck at this, guy.
Which is smart. I mean, I would have been comfortable if they left the option for suckage, but that comes from me being a point buy guy.
Yep, and this, right here, there's some option for suckage. Because
On
some
the
of
Wild
these,
Magic table?
some of these are not good. Some of them are very good. I like this. I like the options there. I like that there's a 4-page a table of random trinkets you can get at the beginning of the game for no additional cost, just little tiny things for fluff reasons.
One was Michael Jackson's glove.
Yeah, some of them are fluff-based, some of them are actually possibly valuable.
It's very cool.
This is just, it's polished. It's,
and this is very important, it's something that I want to keep playing.
It's what 4th edition should have been. Look, okay, from 1st edition to 2nd edition, you can see the obvious progression there. THAC0 was kind of weird, but otherwise you could see the obvious progression of ideas. From 2nd edition to 3rd edition, again, we got rid of THAC0, and everything else is an obvious progression of ideas. Streamlining, refining, updating for the modern audience, and
then
things that were missed.
3 to 3.5.
Which was just polishing that turd a bit and going, that's the best we got.
And then 4th edition came, and it was its wacky new cousin. It was Cousin Oliver.
They ran off into left field going, MMOs are popular, right? How do we get the new kids in? I know, let's goth up the tieflings really hard and...
God, they made them goth as fuck. Now, goth tieflings are back.
Yeah, I miss the old kind, but...
Goth tieflings are back, Dragonborn are still here.
Which, I don't even know if goth is accurate. Angsty, inherently angsty. It's not like they sit around with dark hair and pale skin looking at the moonlight. No, they're just mad at Dad.
Demon Dad. And Dragonborn are back.
Dragonborn were a fine race. Dragonborn was...
I have no problem with
yeah, that was... I'm surprised they haven't gone ahead and been like, look, here's your winged race and here's your catfolk race. Because those are the other two archetypes that were outside of the standard races that are so popular.
Yeah.
I'm really honestly surprised they didn't do that. But, you have the tools to make it yourself. But yeah, 5th edition, D&D Next, Dungeons and Dragons, if you want to go by the official title, is what 4th edition should have been. A logical progression of things from 3rd edition, from 3.5, taking it to a newer and more polished and streamlined conclusion.
Well, they realized that, because how long was it between 3.5 and 4th edition?
It was a pretty long time.
Yeah, a few years.
How short of time was it between 4 and 5?
Yeah, people weren't having it. And
yeah,
even then, between 4th and Essentials...
It sold fairly well. It sold fairly well.
Oh yeah, they made a lot of new fans, but they turned away their entire old audience. And unlike other companies that shall remain the WWE, they actually care about that.
Let's see here.
What you looking at?
I'm looking to see the actual time lengths on that, because it's an interesting question.
I know it was a really long time, 5 to 8 years between 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
3rd and 4th... 2nd edition was dying when I got into D&D. I remember begging my mom for the Guide to Hell book, and she said no.
Because it was a guide to hell?
I didn't need the Guide to Hell. Quote, it's hell, it's bad. There you go. Just like when I would ask for Harvest Moon, and she pointed me to her CD rack and went, Neil Young is under Y for young. My mom had a fun sense of humor, which meant I didn't get things I wanted. But I digress. As I was getting into D&D, 2nd edition was dying, 3rd edition was rising up. I actually started 3rd edition and then 3.5. I still have some 3rd edition books kicking around in the old bookshelf. And then 3.5 and 3rd edition were around 6 years. That sounds about right.
We have the original Dungeons and Dragons came out in 1974.
Yes.
Then 77 was Advanced, Mark.
So that's 5 years?
Yeah, that's Advanced D&D. That's first solid edition Dungeons and Dragons. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition was 1989. So that was there for 12 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. In 1989 until 2000 was 2nd edition. 2000 is when 3rd edition came out. 3.5 came out in 2003. It's 3 years. 2008 is when 4th edition came out. And let's see.
So 8 years, that's pretty healthy.
Yeah, 2008, and then 2014 is now. Last year is 5th
5
edition.
years.
So 8 years. Honestly, there was a bigger gap between 4th and 5th edition than there was between 3rd and 4th. Than there was between 3rd and 4th edition.
No.
Oh no, 8 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
They go about every 8 years now.
So I was a little off, but
But still, that's still 3 years earlier.
that's still them going, okay, we understand we fucked up, we tried to make it better, and we failed. So, what did you have in mind?
Essentials was their fix was their 3.5 for 4th edition. That came out in 2010. So from 2010 to 2014, it was Essentials.
It wasn't even. I mean...
And they stopped really pushing 4th edition in, 2012, honestly.
Yeah, that playtest went on for a while. But, I think that was the best move they could do, asking the fans what they wanted out of a book. Because I do that in terms of everything. I'm always asking you guys, listener, Ultima Dragon, for input, viewer, if you're listening.
Look, when you're making things, be they books, movies, television, you're making them, for any entertainment thing, you're making them for one of two reasons. You're either making them for yourself or for your audience. If you're making them for yourself, then do yours. Get what you're going to get. No one's going to be able to tell you what to do anyway. If you're making them for your audience, it makes good fucking sense to ask your audience what they'd like, if you can.
You don't have to cater them 100% by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, to do so, I'd say is foolish. Because then you're basically...
You're not challenging them, and audiences, for the most part, enjoy being challenged.
Yes. There's a line, but that's not what this podcast is about. We're winding down anyway. But, as we talk about in our WWE podcasts, very frequently, when we're upset at the product, and we're mad at directions things have taken, the first question we ask ourselves, and when we make discussions away from the podcast, is, well, what would you do? And if you can answer that question, then, you can move forward with that knowledge and feel equipped to do better things. And if the company is asking you that question, that shows so much, A, humility, B, willingness to correct wrongs, and willingness to listen, and C, respect for the fan, that you really have to appreciate it. And the product they've come up with, while it's not the thing you grew up with, is still a really solid product.
I agree. Another company that's asking people their opinion, Harmonix.
Yeah, we talked about that on our music podcast. That was basically the inspiration of why we started talking about music, was because Harmonix was sending around that...
Hey, we might be maybe making another rock band. Not gonna say we are, but, if we were, what are you guys calling? And then the entire internet went, backwards compatible DLC!
I've spent so much damn money on that.
Because backwards compatible DLC. Ultima Dragon, if you know any people with Harmonix, tell them.
Backgrounds!
What?
We spent this whole podcast talking about 5th edition D&D, and we didn't pick the third thing that's a thing!
Backgrounds, yeah!
I mean, there's no time to get into it, but it's so easy to forget, because for so long, your character has been made of race and class.
But
now it's race and class and background. And it's not like a dumb third thing you have to pick.
It's important, and it helps flesh out your character.
It does
very well.
a lot.
And they give you enough options that it's hard, unless you're playing in an alternate setting, it's hard to find something that wouldn't work for your character. Even if two people are playing the same background, a lot of them have fluff to make it a little different. Some of them have alternate power sets, if you could call them powers. They're like social things you can do. To just make a little bit of a difference for people.
And some really important things are in backgrounds. It helps fluff out your class and your situation, it helps flesh out your situation, and it helps flesh out your character. And you're right, even if two people are playing the exact same background, even if they have the exact same kind of background, they don't pick anything differently. If they have two different classes, it makes for a very different character.
Sure.
And it gives you the option, since the backgrounds aren't tied to classes, you can play into the strengths of that class with a background that fits, or you can play against type and have a different, interesting experience that way. I enjoy it quite a bit, actually.
It adds a little bit something extra, and this edition talks about 3 pillars of role playing. That being the adventure, the actual role playing, and the stats. I think. I haven't memorized the book. I might be wrong about the adventure one. Might be exploration. I don't know. This one, your race is what ties you to the setting. Your class is your stats and what you can do. Your background is what brings your role-playing and gives it a presence in your actual character mechanics. Right down to sometimes starting with some interesting loot because of it.
That's a good way of summarizing it. We could go into more detail, but we're actually already at time.
Yeah, we're all good. And I think this was a healthy podcast, full of pauses and looking at books, but if anything, that should show our love for the product. Because while everything is better when nerds talk about it, if the nerds don't want to talk about it and just want to giggle and ogle at it, it's either boobs, or it is also, like boobs, incredibly amazing.
I'm not even going to close the call. That's the best close.
Well, thank you.
We're done.
All right.
Boobs.
Fuck it, let's get high.